Welcome back. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And today, this is like a special announcement interview for my homie. But as much as this is my homie, you can come on for special announcements and things like that too. But this is like kind of like the you know somebody to know somebody. I'm reaching out to him just saying like, hey man, you want to support what I got going on coming up soon? And he like, yo, I got something coming up sooner. So I'm like, okay, what's happening? He's like, it's gonna be at Focus Hope. Focus Hope is in my neighborhood footprint for those that don't know. With all that being said, Eddie Connor, Dr. Eddie Connor, how are you, my brother?
Man, my brother from another mother, Kari Frazier, man. I love it. I don't know if it's any relationship to Joe Frazier, but you always knocking it out, brother.
Thank you. No relationship to the good brother Smoking Joe.
Right.
But definitely.
Up goes Frazier.
Exactly. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
But definitely, you have something coming up. Before we even get into that, let's just frame a little bit of our connection. I don't even necessarily know when, how, where we met, but afterwards, I'm like, damn, Eddie Connor's like a powerful dude that just like is working and teaching and stuff like this. Y'all gonna get the full story when we really get the full scope, but also just staying in that momentum of growing. Like when I met you, you were teacher.
Right.
Then became professor. Then became doctor. And now public speaker, motivational speaker. Definitely may give a sermon or two. You know what I mean? Author of many books. You've traveled the world speaking.
Yeah.
That journey, man, you offering something in that, still staying connected to Detroit, even as you travel the world.
Oh, for sure.
What keeps you connected to doing things and organizing in Detroit?
Man, that's a great question. Because, our connection, man, you come in and speak to Boys to Books program when I was teaching and, the literacy, leadership, life skills enrichment, and you just pouring into the brothers. I just love the city, man. My hometown is Motown, as we say, what up, though, And it's more than just a slogan. It's actually just a lifestyle. I live by that credo and that phrase, service is the rent you pay for the space you occupy.
Okay.
So, occupying this space and place, I love the city. I put on for the city, and I just want to see people in the city just go up. And any way I can roll up my sleeves and make it happen, staying ingratiating the community is what it's all about.
Okay, so you got something coming up this Saturday where you're pouring back into the city. What's happening this Saturday?
Absolutely. The conference of the year is going to be here Saturday, August the 5th. It's called the Access Identity Conference.
Okay, wait. Let's just break down the title. Access Identity Conference.
Yep.
When you combine those terms, it's a lot of things to just think through. Okay, because access is basically being able to tap into something.
Right.
Being able to touch something. Like, as this is one of the few things that I know a lot of you guys hate our former president, but it was an interesting quote he said. He said, it's not about having money, it's about having access to it. And I was like, that's an interesting perspective and way to look at it. And I already know a lot of my listeners here are like, yeah, he definitely got access to it because he's a thief, which definitely I think he's done a lot of stuff. It's black collar, as they say. It ain't blue, ain't white. It's black collar. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Now, with that being said, access, right? And then identity. Identity is like the center of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So to put those things together, that's going on the concept of basically people aren't even tapping into knowing who they are.
Absolutely.
So before we get into what do you think is the disconnect why so many people are not accessing their own identity?
Great question. And I think it has a lot to do with, in many cases, just the way society has set it up because of our background, because of what we've experienced, because of the past that now, in many cases, imprisons you introspectively. And so with all of that, I believe somebody's waiting for you to become who you are so they can become who they're supposed to be. Here's the question. How much longer will you make them wait?
Wait, you said somebody's waiting on you to
be who you are. Yep.
Who you are.
Mm-hmm. So they can become who they're supposed to be. And to access your identity, you got to get through the identity theft of what people have robbed and stolen from your identity and your clarity and your knowledge. And then you also have to overcome the identity crisis.
So when you say identity theft, this isn't like, when we think of that, we think of like somebody tapping into your Cash App, getting $20. You're talking about really whom a person is.
Yeah, personal identity theft. Yeah. Things that you go through. Some people have been robbed of their innocence. They've been robbed of, their character. They've been robbed of, just who it is that they are as an individual because of the past, because of people, because of what they have allowed, the trauma, the bitterness, the strife that becomes an impediment in people's life. And so I wanted to give people access to who it is that they are. I believe it's important to build a longer table than a taller fence. And that's oftentimes we have not had access, especially in our community as black people. If you're not at the table, then you're on the menu is what they say. And so in the conference, we're talking about mental health and wellness, which is important and necessary and needed. Talking about financial literacy, economic equity, purpose, personal identity, relationships, how to scale your business, how to do business in the marketplace, how to do unorthodox ministry in unorthodox time. So it is connecting kingdom and community. It's connecting spiritual and practical and relational and psychological. And so it's a holistic conference. And, we got people like Hill Harper who's coming, Tasha Page Lockhart, Sabrina Jackson, Dr. Sabrina Jackson, Kenneth W. Donaldson, Prophetess Kelly Cruz, Pastor Robert Bolden, Dr. Rose Moten, Gail Perry Mason, many of the heavy hitters who are in the city and the community that people know. But here's the thing, it's branched out beyond just local. It's branched out beyond just national. It's become a global thing. And as we have registrants from 23 states rather, and 11 countries. So this thing has grown tremendously beyond my own imagination in many cases.
Well, shout out to first off, just like a big homie, just in observance.
Yeah.
I don't know if Gail Perry Mason knows, followed your work for a minute. Love a lot of what you're pouring in. And Dr. Jackson, really powerful, in putting things together and unpacking some of the challenges that the black experience can be in America. And it's a journey. And as we go back into that, you say, you just gave a lot, just to really think through in the whole concept around identity and how we identify ourselves, and more so what that is to take those steps. So you mentioned financial literacy. You mentioned scaling up a business. You mentioning things that go more so into the space of growing and building capital.
Yeah.
And that is definitely something that is thought about, spoke to, but acted upon, I think, sparingly in our community, because a lot of it is back to that identity. It's being in that room when a person says all right, anybody, you sometimes go to these conferences and they're like, look, if anybody got a credit score under 750, you ain't even really trying.
Right.
And you're sitting there with a 620 and you're like, damn, I'm a person that's not trying. So now I'm not going to engage. So that identity, I think, plays such a big role, because some of our identities are not even having the courage to really lay out and be so transparent about where we stand and what's real. Because putting on the mask that we can put on, because that's really when we think of the identity. Putting on the mask for whenever that may be. It could be the job. It could be the relationship. It could be family. It can be friends. It can be these different masks where you end up lost into what that identity is, just to not rock the boat, to be accepted, to go along with the get along. The classicness of, and I was always that person that started asking the question in class when nobody else would have a question.
Wow.
But then everybody else really thought man, what you asked, I really was thinking too, but I didn't want to seem like I was stupid.
Right.
This is what's real. And I think that disconnect does exist. So I'm going to quote one of my favorite, I guess, counselors, psychologists, especially when it comes to anything black, but I'm going to speak beyond that. And Dr. Amos Wilson, when he speaks to, and I don't know how much you've looked into his work, but he speaks to the hysteria that we can sometimes experience in the black experience. His lectures on YouTube are definitely works I go to often. Sometimes it may be an 8-hour lecture. So it'll be in bits and pieces, but that hysteria in finding that identity and knowing that identity and having some pride in knowing that this design is not necessarily designed for you to function, but you need to come up with your own ways to function, because it really can seem oftentimes like everything else around us is so perfect And let me put this mask on because I don't want to stand out as the odd person out saying like
Wow.
I don't know, debt to income. I don't know what a debt to income ratio is. How do I get that? You know what I'm saying? How do I, you know what I'm saying? Like just something basic, like, what's an IRA?
Yeah.
What's a money market account? When people say like, here's something classic, most finance people say, what's your number? Meaning like, what's the amount of money you want to have saved up for retirement? And I'm a Walsh College graduate. I don't know if most people know this, and I like being a Walsh College graduate, being that it's my father went there, but more so it's a business school in and around in Troy, Michigan, not far from Detroit, but a lot of staunch Republicans there. You know what I'm saying? Like a conservative doctrine about how money is looked at and everything. But my financial planning class, and it was so unique when I went to my first financial planning class, it blew my mind. Where my professor, and most of the professors work in fields. My professor is like, if you have a portfolio of less than $2.5 million, we don't even look at you at our Ernst & Young branch, a branch in Grosse Pointe. And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, everybody I knew, if at the age 60, because that's the goal, is to get to 60 and then have your number, and so that you can figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And you go to these lending institutions like a Ernst & Young, and then they make decisions on how they want to like invest your money in things that you think would be best, that you support and everything, while you keep the money you have and grow upon that so you can have more for your savings. So I'm thinking to myself, like, at 60 years old, if you gave many of the people in my social circle, a lot of black folks, $2.5 million, I think a lot of white folks too, probably, but a lot of black folks, $2.5 million, they'd be thinking like, investment. Right. What am I saving for? You know what I'm saying? Now I give that long brevity to say, now when you give this same information to us in our community, what does that look like? Because right now you've just made me put that mask on by just even mentioning a number like $2.5 million. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now I feel so belittled, like $2.5 million. I don't even know what $2.5 million looks like. Hence the tax of poverty, which Gail Perry Mason speaks to this often. Like, the tax of being poor is a very high tax. So the poor taxes are like, when you have less, you're transacting more to get anything to happen. You know what I'm saying? Your bill, you always paying your bill late. So now you paying that 10% fee. In the back of your mind, you like, well, it's just $15 or whatever, or $20 or $200. If you're consistently paying this $25 every month, that's $250 at the end of the year. At $250, I'm not saying like, you know what I'm saying, you can start a business with it per se. But that's still $250 that with discipline you can have and add to some tool that could be savings, could be another space to add to more expendable income to have a higher quality of life. So now when you go out with whomever, you know what I'm saying, you can, you don't have to sweat bullets a whole lot on like when a bunch of kids like, hey, give me ice cream for everybody. And it's like, wait a minute, y'all gonna be splitting popsicles. You know what I'm saying? So like sometimes those small things. So when that person's in that situation, how do you avoid putting on that mask? Like, how do you tap into your identity and have pride to say, look, I'm very far from $2.5 million at 60, and I've never known anybody that had $2.5 million at 60. More than likely, my people are waiting on different plans of what can function. I believe that I'm going to be relying on Social Security. I will be relying on some form of a pension, which most people, if people study this, won't probably have pensions. They're going to have, they're going to have like some form of like a 401k or a IRA or different vehicles like that. I'm going to be relying on that. And amongst that, I would like to have some type of way to enter the market if I'm going to continue to work after the age of 60, what that will look like based on what my health conditions are and what access I have, and also my capacity to do work.
Right.
I need to work around that. But with that, what should I be saving? Having the presence of mind to say something like that in a room when you just heard something that seems like it's out the park. How do you get a person to that point?
I think it takes transparency. It is the fact that I'm always one to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. That's why I surround myself with experts. Know-it-all really knows nothing at all. None of us have this whole thing figured out. We're learning as we're going, and What I just took a chance on was to share and invite people to the table who I know have the answers for the questions that we have. And so, the whole aspect that the only stupid question is the one that you don't ask, and getting people to be responsive. And I'm glad that I brought people to the table who don't just share their strengths, they share their struggles. They're open, they're transparent about it. They're vulnerable about the fact that they really care for the people. It's not, as Dr. Cornell West said, you can't save the people if you don't serve the people. You can't lead the people if you don't love the people. And, surrounding myself with people like that and being a person like that as well, just to provide access and opportunity to oftentimes what we can't necessarily get in this type of exposure unless we're going to Florida, unless we're going to Atlanta, unless we're going to LA. So why not do it here? Why not bring it here? Why not let them know Detroit is different? You know what I'm saying? Just like your show suggests. And that being the mindset to let us know we have the answers. We are the leaders that we've been looking for. Let's hear from them. And then let's also ask the question so that we can now move our life forward in every specific aspect and ancillary part of our life to improve it as a whole and our community as a result.
Okay, in this same journey, accessing your identity, how do you keep grounded? How do you keep accessing your identity to stay grounded?
Man, I think this is very near and dear to me because for years I was lost in the sauce. I didn't know what my true identity was. 2023 marks 23 years of me being cancer-free, battling stage 4 cancer. I remember a guy walked up to me coming out of cancer, and I was in a convenience store, inconvenienced me. I'd never told you this story. But he walks up to me, don't say what up, though, don't say hello, don't say what's good, bro. He said, I thought you died. And to have that heat rush go through my body to where my fist was clenching and I was going to hit the guy, because those are fighting words right there. Mm-hmm. And I was going to have a Will Smith, Chris Rock moment. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to be Chris. And it reminded me that not only did people give up on me, I was one of the ones who almost gave up on myself.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know my identity. And going through that place of finding the cancer and my father not visiting me one day in the hospital, at all in the hospital during my chemo and radiation and, fighting for my life when I was just starting my life. The struggle brought about strength. It showed my resilience. Sometimes, you don't realize how strong you are until being strong is your only option. And I was able to access my identity, so to speak, in the place where I just couldn't really identify who I was. It was faith in God. It was a praying mother. It was people who would come into my life and encourage me. And I said, if I could access it for my own particular self, I can empower other people to do the same. And to live through dying places and to bounce back from a setback and to do all I'm doing now, is nothing but a miracle. Because most people didn't believe in me, and even I was one of the ones who didn't always believe in myself. And so believing that, you may be at your wit's end, maybe on death's door, but you can overcome and you can really find the way to come back from a setback. That's what it's about.
All right, so get the people how they get connected. What's the cost? How do they get done?
Absolutely. Revolution not only be televised, it'll be digitized. They can go right now, accessidentity.org. Registration was generally $97. It's just $47 right now. You go to the website, you can register for a steal of a deal. It's basically a hookup, just $47, the entry fee. And you'll be able to get my new book that's coming out. It's called Identity. Going to be able to connect and network with people, like I said, from 23 states. 12 countries. It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be a phenomenal experience. And you owe it to yourself to invest in yourself. Yeah,
definitely. So get this. Definitely check for this. Eddie coming back. Dr. Connor is going to be back in effect where we get the full story and more breakdown. But thank you so much. I'm glad I could highlight this, get this in the mix, get some people over your way. And definitely, make sure we can pour some love in this.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely appreciate you, brother, and you speaking truth to power, giving us a platform on Black media.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? This is groundbreaking. This is revolutionary. This is why Detroit is different, and you embody that, brother.
Thank you. Y'all can see, Eddie, that guy. Love Eddie. Yeah. And also, Eddie Mama actually is like Eddie times 1,000. More of a sweetheart. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Mama always got love for you, man.
Definitely.
Appreciate you lifting her up for sure.
Always, always. All right, man. So peace be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was dope, man.
Yeah, man.